Chapter 17 General Provisions. Enforcement of this Constitution. Every person has the right to institute court proceedings claiming that this Constitution has been contravened or is threatened with contravention. In addition to a person acting in their own interest, court proceedings under Clause 1 may be instituted by a person acting on behalf of another person who cannot act in their own name, b. a person acting as a member of or in the interest of a group or a class of persons, c. a person acting in the public interest, or d. an association acting in the interest of one or more of its members. Construing this Constitution. The Constitution shall be interpreted in a manner that a. promotes its purposes, values, and principles, b. advances the rule of law and the human rights and fundamental freedoms in the Bill of Rights, c. permits the development of law, and d. contributes to good governance. If there is a conflict between different language versions of this Constitution, the English language version prevails. Every provision of this Constitution shall be construed according to the doctrine of interpretation that the law is always speaking, and, therefore, among other things, a function or power conferred by this Constitution on an office may be performed or exercised as occasion requires by the person holding the office, b. any reference in this Constitution to a state or other public officer or a person holding such an office includes a reference to the person acting in or otherwise performing the functions of the office at any particular time. A reference in this Constitution to an office, state organ, or locality named in this Constitution shall be read with any formal alteration necessary to make it applicable in the circumstance, and d. a reference in this Constitution to an office, body, or organization is, if the office, body, or organization has ceased to exist, a reference to its successor or to the equivalent office, body, or organization. In this Constitution, unless the context otherwise requires, a. if a word or expression is defined in this Constitution, any grammatical variation or cognate expression of the word or expression has a corresponding meaning read with the changes required by the context, or b. the word includes, in quotes, means includes but is not limited to. In calculating time between two events for any purpose under this Constitution, if the time is expressed a. as days, the day on which the first event occurs shall be excluded, and the day by which the last event may occur shall be excluded. b. as months, the time period ends at the beginning of the day in the relevant month, 1. that has the same number as the date on which the period began if that month has a corresponding date, or 2. that is the last day of that month in any case. Or c. as years, the period of time ends at the beginning of the date of the relevant year that corresponds to the date on which the period began. If a period of time prescribed by this Constitution for any purpose is 6 days or less, Sundays and public holidays shall not account when calculating the time. If, in any particular circumstances, the period of time prescribed by this Constitution ends on a Sunday or a public holiday, the period extends to the first subsequent day that is not a Sunday or a public holiday. If a particular time is not prescribed by this Constitution for performing a required act, the act shall be done without unreasonable delay and as often as occasion arises. If any person or state organ has authority under this Constitution to extend a period of time prescribed by this Constitution, the authority may be exercised either before or after the end of the period, unless a contrary intention is expressly specified in the provision conferring the authority. Except to the extent that this Constitution provides otherwise, if a person has vacated an office established under this Constitution, the person may, if qualified, again be appointed, elected, or otherwise selected to hold the office in accordance with this Constitution. If a function or power conferred on a person under this Constitution is exercisable by the person only on the advice or recommendation, with the approval or consent of, or on consultation with another person, the function may be performed or the power exercised only on that advice, recommendation, with that approval or consent, or after that consultation, except to the extent that this Constitution provides otherwise. Interpretation. In this Constitution, unless the context requires otherwise, adult means an individual who has attained the age of 18 years. Affirmative action includes any measure designed to overcome or ameliorate an inequality or the systematic denial or infringement of a right or fundamental freedom. Child means an individual who has not attained the age of 18 years. Contravene includes fail to comply with. County legislation means a law made by a county government or under the authority confirmed by a county assembly. Disability includes any physical, sensory, mental, psychological, or other impairment, condition, or illness has or is perceived by significant sectors of the community to have a substantial or long-term effect on an individual's ability to carry out ordinary day-to-day activities. Document in quotes includes A. Any publication or any matter written, expressed, or inscribed on any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of those means that is intended to be used or may be used for the purpose of recording that matter. And B. Electronic files. Effective date in quotes means the date that this Constitution came into force. Fail in quotes includes refuse. Financial year means the period of 12 months ending on the 13th day of June or other day prescribed by national legislation, but the initial financial year of any entity is the period of time from which it's coming into existence until the immediately following 13th day of June or other day prescribed by national legislation. Gazette in quote means the Kenya Gazette published by authority of the national government or a supplement to the Kenyan Gazette. Guarantee means any absolute or conditional promise, commitment, or undertaking by the national government to partially or completely repay any loan to a county government or any person. Judicial officer in quotes means a registrar, deputy registrar, magistrate, kadhi, or the presiding officer of a court established under Article 169 Clause 1D. Land in quotes includes A. The surface of the earth and the subsurface rock. B. Any body of water on or under the surface. C. Marine waters in the territorial sea and exclusive economic zone. D. Natural resources completely contained on or under the surface. And E. The airspace above the surface. Legislation in quotes includes A. An act of parliament or a law made under authority conferred by an act of parliament, or B. A law made by an assembly of a county government or under authority conferred by such a law. Loan in quotes includes any form of borrowing, lending, or deferred payment in respect of which money from a public fund may be used or is required to be used for payment or repayment. Marginalized community in quotes means A. A community that, because of its relatively small population or for any other reason, has been unable to fully participate in the integrated social and economic life of Kenya as a whole. B. A traditional community, out of a need or desire to preserve its unique culture and integrity from assimilation, has remained outside the integrated social and economic life of Kenya as a whole. C. An indigenous community that has retained and maintained a traditional lifestyle and livelihood based on hunter or gatherer economy. Or D. pastoral persons and communities, whether they are 1. Nomadic, or 2. A settled community that, because of its relatively geographic isolation, has experienced only marginal participation in the integrated social and economic life of Kenya as a whole. Marginalized group in quotes means a group of people who, because of laws or practices before, on or after the effective date, were or are disadvantaged by discrimination on one or more of the grounds in Article 27 Clause 4. National legislation in quotes means an act of parliament or a law made under authority conferred by an act of parliament. Natural resources in quotes means the physical or non-physical human factors and components, whether renewable or non-renewable, including A. Sunlight, B. Surface and groundwater, C. Forests, biodiversity and genetic resources, and D. Rocks, minerals, fossil fuels, and other sources of energy. Older member of society in quotes means a person who has attained the age of 60 years. Person in quotes includes a company, association, or other body of persons, whether incorporated or unincorporated. Political party in quotes means an association contemplated in Part 3 of Chapter 7. Property in quotes includes any vested or contingent right to or interest in arising from A. Land or permanent fixtures on or improvements to land, B. Goods or personal property, C. Intellectual property, or D. Money chosen in action or negotiable instruments. Public officer in quotes means A. Any state officer, or B. Any person other than a state officer who holds a public office. Public office in quotes means an office in the national government, a county government, or the public service if the remuneration and benefits of the office are payable directly from the consolidated fund or directly out of money provided by Parliament. Public service in quotes means the collectivity of all individuals other than state officers performing a function within a state organ. Republic in quotes means the Republic of Kenya. State in quotes, when used as a noun, means the collectivity of offices, organs, and other entities comprising the government of the Republic under this Constitution. State office in quotes means any of the following offices: A. The President, B. The Deputy President, C. Cabinet Secretary, D. Member of Parliament, E. Judges and Magistrates, F. Member of a commission to which Chapter 15 applies, G. Holder of an independent office to which Chapter 15 applies, H. Member of a county assembly, governor or deputy governor of a county, or other member of the executive committee of a county government, I. Attorney General, J. Director of Public Prosecutions, K. Secretary to the Cabinet, L. Principal Secretary, M. Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, N. Commander of a service of the Kenya Defence Forces, O. Director General of the National Intelligence Service, P. Inspector General and the Deputy Inspector General of the National Police Service, or Q. An office established and designated as a state office by national legislation. State officer in quotes means a person holding a state office. State organ in quotes means a commission, office, agency, or other body established under this Constitution. Writing in quotes includes printing, photography, lithography, typewriting, braille, and other means of representing or reproducing words in a visible form. And youth in quotes means the collectivity of all individuals in the Republic who A. have attained the age of 13 years, but B have not attained the age of 35 years. Chapter 17. General Provisions.